Okay, so I guess today is the demo class or the first class. So today I will mostly, okay, first let me introduce myself. So I'm Akash. I have more than 8 years of expertise in cloud and DevOps. So I'm presently working as a senior DevOps engineer with Publicis Sapiens, and I'm a certified AWS solutions architect, GCP DevOps engineer certified, as well as Azure admin certified, and I'm also Terraform certified. So if you ask me what work I do, so basically I work on infrastructure automation, architecting end-to-end DevOps pipelines, and also design scalable and resilient multi-cloud architecture. Right. This is on my day-to-day professional life, and apart from that have conducted more than 50 plus of training sessions on DevOps and cloud, and helped in preparing more than 500 students out there, right? So this is a quick background of myself. Okay, so before we start, right, so today we have joined here and we want to discuss on GCP DevOps, right? But before we go there, right, can we have one or two lines from your side? What are you expecting from this course, or what is your present scenario of your work, or how do you see yourself post completing this course, or where do you see yourself? What are your expectations? If one or two lines can you share, would be very good for me to gauge the student base out here. Does that seem good? Hello? Anyone who wants to volunteer first? Just one or two lines of your work and what you want uh, post completing this course, or what are your expectations? Hello? No one? Okay, not an worry. Let's get started. Then I'll take the Q&A at the end, right? So that will solve most of the questions and also problems that you're facing right now. Okay, so I see again people joining in. That's good. So this is GCP Cloud along with DevOps, right? So first, let's a bit understand what we want to have knowledge of. So this is my knowledge on what I have: DevOps, cloud, collaboration, and scripting. Let's keep that aside. So post this completion of this course, we will be certified, or we would be calling ourselves DevOps engineers, right? Or DevOps and cloud engineers, I would say, to be very precise. So we have this term DevOps, right? And we have a lot of commentary out there in the market related to DevOps, right? What is DevOps? That's the first question. I think that's the burning question out there. Is it a tool? Is it a particular cloud, or is it Kubernetes? Is it Docker? Is it Jenkins? Or what is DevOps, right? So DevOps is not a tool, right? It's just a philosophy, okay? Philosophy of collaboration between the development team and the operations team, right? And that collaboration is done by utilizing multiple tools that is segregated into multiple, that helps you in multiple phases to have that collaboration and have that communication between both the teams, right? So from today, we will not think DevOps as a particular tool, but we'll think DevOps as a philosophy. Yes, DevOps, again, those tools will help us to achieve that philosophy of DevOps, right? Of, or I would say, implementing DevOps in our business or in our day-to-day work, right? So mostly whatever tools that you see in this image, so we will be mostly learning all of these tools once we go ahead in this courses and sessions. So each and every tool that we will be learning, and we will be understanding each one of them. So apart from that, right, why learn DevOps? So DevOps is one of the top skills employers are looking there in the IT market right now, and it is also high paid. So one of the highly paid jobs as per survey from Indeed, Glassdoor, and Quora. And there are a lot of opportunities there in the market too, right? I cannot imagine now a team or a project that is working without DevOps being without DevOps being implemented, right? So there is a lot of demand there in the market, and if I talk about the other side, it is also very interesting tool or philosophy to also learn, because each day a new tool is coming, so you get to learn lot of new things, right? And it is enhancing day and day, right? So the area of your expertise will be highly valued in your project or in your business or in your organization. So that is again another part of why you should fall or learn DevOps, right? That will help you to grow in your career. So as I was explaining, everyone needs DevOps, right? Anyone who wants their product and their feature delivered faster to users will require DevOps, right? Why again we need DevOps, and why the older methodologies, let's say waterfall, has gone away. Uh, we will see in the we will see in the sessions, but at least to give you a high level, what happened earlier was, let's say, to deliver our software, we had to go through multiple phases, be it the build, be it the test, be it the deploy, be it the release, and these were all not, I would say, segmented, or there was no collaboration between each teams, and there was delays, right? And if you see or if you know about the business, right, any delay that is caused in your final product release will cause business loss, right? So we when we are working, be it any uh, project or be in any organization, we must help the organization to have delivered products at the end of our day, right? We don't want the business to have losses, right? So that is the reason why this DevOps philosophy has been inculcated in all of the projects and organizations, right? So as I was explaining, what is DevOps? So DevOps is Dev versus Ops. It was earlier what we used to have is a development team and an ops team. So development team was basically worked into developing the project, and the ops team was into deploying or installing the softwares that the development team had built for them, right? And there was a very big communication gap between the two teams, right? If I tell you an example, let's say uh, you have a Netflix app that is been developed by your developers in your organization, and suddenly that Netflix app is been given to your operations team to uh, put it into the, let's say, Play Store, right? And you are trying to install it, right, in your system. So in the trial phases, the operations team might not know all the intricacies or all the prerequisites that are required to install that Netflix software, right? Because they might have not been given the enough knowledge or the enough I would say bandwidth of what to follow, what instructions to follow, what steps to follow to install that application, right? And that is the reason why the app post installation the application might have been broken, or there had been some bug that has been identified, and the entire process got delayed, right? And we as end customers also faced a lot of multiple issues, right? And if we face issues, we won't go back to using that application, right? So as a result, there is a loss for the business, right? So to enhance those mechanisms, we had implemented DevOps, or we had come out with this concept of DevOps. Is that if you see on the left hand side, there's the developer, and if you see on the right hand side, there is the ops guy, and there was a bridge between them, right, or a brick wall between them, right? So to remove this wall between the two teams, we had come out with DevOps, right? So so DevOps in one word is collaboration, communication, and integration between both the teams, right? I know these are a bit of jargons right now, or a lot of theoretical things, but at least on a very high level, you need to know these things. At least your concept should be clear of what exactly is DevOps, right? And from today, let's not say DevOps is either Kubernetes or Docker or Maven or Git, right? Those tools help us to have this philosophy integrate in our organization. But those tools are not DevOps, right? Okay, so what DevOps now does is DevOps will uh, sit together with the development team. The DevOps engineers will understand both sides, uh, from the dev team as well as from the ops team, and then fix a strategy to release the application out in the market, right? And also will look for the stability of the product, so that once the end user starts to use that, they are not again hampered, or the user experience is not hampered, right? So these things are mostly checked by the DevOps engineers. And again, apart from stability, there is another term as agility. So DevOps is again looking is another branch of DevOps, or I would say is looking into the agility part, is whether how fast you can deliver your products to the market. So again, it follows agile methodologies. We will learn about it a bit, right? How DevOps and both agile fall in hand, right? To give our businesses more efficiency and high performance, right? How that also shapes in to help our releases out in the market. And finally, we have automation, right? Why automation? Because we do not want manual intervention of humans into our most of our work, right? Because we humans are very much prone to errors, right? And if I, let's say, leave the organization and someone else replaces me in the organization, he might again follow a different manual strategy to do their work, right? And at the end of the day, the business will get affected, right? So that is the reason why DevOps also supports automation, right? You need whatever you are doing, you need to automate that, right? Using again those tools that comes handy. But you need to automate your work, right? To have very less of human intervention and very less errors out there. Okay, so now this is typically a high level DevOps life cycle. So it is basically segregated into two parts on a high level. If I say is one is CI and one is CD. So CI is basically stands for continuous integration, and CD stands for continuous delivery, right? What is continuous integration? I'll tell you on a high level. Continuous integration is nothing but it's developing your code, and then testing your code, and then building your code, right? And this is done on a very regular basis. So this is basically CI, continuous integration, and continuous delivery is once you have your code built, let's say in form of a jar file, or let's say in form of a Docker image. So you need to deploy it somewhere and release it to your end for your end users, right? So that process is known as continuous delivery, right? And once we combine these two, these forms the DevOps life cycle, right? So let's take it on a very high level. So if I have a code, let's say I have a Java code, I push it to my Git repository. Maybe I can use GitHub to store my code. From there, Jenkins, I'll have what is Jenkins and all. We will discuss that, but just sticking on a high, very very high level, we want to build that code. Let's say I want to build uh, a jar file from that Java, right? So I need a particular uh, orchestration platform where or a tool that can help me building that, so that Jenkins can help me over here, and also Maven can help me to build that jar file. So we have Jenkins and Maven to build our code. Then we have a stage of code test. So we might use Sonar for testing our code, or Selenium to test our code. I know these tools are very high level, but we will learn all these tools later in the course, right? Just to give you an understanding of how the flow works, I'm just naming a few tools, right? And then the delivery part, then we have the DB security and OS changes. These all fall apart with the testing phase, and then we go to the deployment phase. Let's say we want to deploy that Docker image to a Kubernetes instance, or a container instance, or a Tomcat server. So this falls in the deployment, and then we release it to the end users, right? So this is basically a very very high level of DevOps lifecycle that is getting followed in each and every projects out there. You might uh, entirely, this might not be the entire stages, I would say, that is getting followed. Some might get excluded or some might get included based on the use case that they are trying to achieve. But on a generic basis, this is the high level stages, right? That you need to follow, like the code build, the code test, and the storage and the deploy. These cannot be wiped off. In between, you might, instead of having two stages of test, you might have four stages of code test, or so these might vary, correct? But the generic steps or the stages are static for most of our projects out there. And the tools that support these stages, we will be learning all those tools, right? Cool. And DevOps also tells us whatever you are working, or whatever you are deploying, or whatever you are releasing out in the market, you need to monitor all those, right? So there is a continuous monitoring that needs to be done. Okay, so as I was naming a few tools out there that helps us in that entire DevOps life cycle. So what are the tools that we will be also learning? I had just brought a figure uh, in this slide. So let's say for the first stage we want to push, so we will be learning Git, push and fetch changes. It will be Git and GitHub. Then to run our unit tests, we will be using Selenium and Jenkins. To build our artifacts, we'll be using Maven. And then for storing, we will be either using Nexus or GCP's artifact repository. To provision the environment, we will be using Google Cloud's infrastructure, right? Let's say be a VM, be it a cloud storage, be it a cloud database, or be it a GKE. So, and again, to deploy, we'll be using tools like Ansible for configuration management, Terraform for infrastructure, as a code or automation for building up our environment, right? And then for our staging and production, we mostly will be using Google Cloud's environment, right? So this is on the high level of the tools that each step is following in the DevOps lifecycle, and what are the tools that we will be learning in this course, right? So there are a number of tools out there in the market, but uh, we cannot cover all the tools, but only the predominant ones that are mostly used. We'll be taking up all of those in the courses, right, to help you understand and do hands-on on all of these, so that you, when you start working, you do not face any pitfall or challenges, right, to work. So yeah, this let's come to the code coverage a bit. Then I might take questions, because that is the most important part for our first classes, to take the questions. Yeah, so the topics what we will be covering is, first is on the Linux refresher, because we might know Linux a bit from all of our side, but yeah, we might look into Linux and shell scripting for automation. Then we will move into Git, where we will be using it as a version control. We'll be learning Git and GitHub. Then for our orchestration tool, we will be using Jenkins. For our build, we will be learning Maven. And for our test coverage, we'll be learning Sonar. So this will fall in together for the entire end-to-end pipeline. Then for a configuration management, we'll learn Ansible. Then we will also learn Docker, because now the microservices are all staged in form of an image, and we are not using monolithic applications. So Docker is one of the very, very predominant used tools out there in each and every organization. And an advanced level of Docker, I would say, is Kubernetes. So it's again an orchestration engine to run all our microservices, image-based microservices. So you'll be learning Kubernetes. Then for monitoring, we'll be learning a bit of Prometheus and Grafana. So Prometheus will store all our data, and uh, to visualize that data, we'll be using Grafana, right? And then we will also learn the GCP components of cloud compute and storage and databases, right? And again, also on GCP DevOps. So we will be learning two orchestration tool. One is Jenkins, and one is again GCP Cloud Run, right? So these are the two orchestration tools that we'll be mostly working. And again, last but not the least, Terraform, right? So to provision all our environments, we'll be using mostly Terraform, right? Yeah. So this is on the high level topics that we will be picking up. To have the syllabus, you can contact the admin person of Visualpath. They can share you the entire broad syllabus that we had prepared, listing out all the subtopics in each of these high level broad topics, and as well as the hands-on coverage that we'll be doing, and the project in course and projects that you need to also do it from your end to test your also knowledge. So you can also have those syllabus from the Visual Path admin team, right? Okay, so I have mostly covered for our very first session with you together. So now you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Whatever you have, I'll try to answer all of those, because I want to have most of the time interacting with you, like to solve your problems and answer them. Yeah, please go ahead with your questions if you have.
In this course, you are covering AI tools.
Sorry, what are the
In this course, you are covering AI tools. I mean, Vision AI, Vertex.
AI tools you're referring?
Yeah, I mean like Vertex in GCP.
No, no. So what GCP components we are covering is mostly related to the DevOps, be it the GCP load balancers, be it the. Okay, let me quickly open up the syllabus. Just 1 second. Okay, for GCP, what are the components that we are mostly covering is, let's say, GCP networking would be the first part, because you need to learn what if even if you're doing a small scratch on any GCP tool or service, you need to understand the networking. Then we will be learning the GCP compute services, be it the VMs, be it the AS, scaling groups, be it on that side. And then the GCP cloud load balancing, because we have use cases when we deploy our pipelines, we need three level architecture. So for that, GCP load balancing. Then comes the GCP containers and orchestration services. We will talk about GCP Cloud Run, GCP Kubernetes engine, because we will be also learning Kubernetes. So we all our hands-on will be on GKE, right? And then the database and storage services. What are the databases that are there, and what are the trade-offs that you need to do, and pick which one and when on which use case. And also on the GCP storage accounts. Be Apart from that, we'll also learn a bit of cloud serverless services, the cloud run, and the GCP cloud app engine. And there comes the DevOps components, right? The cloud repository, the artifact registry, the GCP cloud run or cloud build for your CI/CD orchestration, and uh, Google Cloud Deploy, right, to have your CD process. Yep, mostly these services we will be learning on GCP. Does that answer your question, Sai?
Yeah, boss.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi Akash, I'm Ganesh.
Hi Ganesh, how are you?
Yeah, very good. So
Yeah,
Akash, I have a
please go ahead.
small doubt here regarding the code part. So as you are saying that we will be working, means building the code and working on it. So
Hmm.
will be needed a core code language knowledge here?
No, no. So when I tell you that you will be requiring to write, so first things first is you need to learn a bit of shell scripting, right? Because when I talk about automation, so shell script is one of the most uh, predominant used scripting language that is used for automation. So I'll help you to learn shell script, right? And how you need to write and what are the concepts out there. I'll teach you on that. And the second part, what I told you, is writing end-to-end pipelines is in Jenkins. It's not only doing it from the UI, right? You But you have to write those Jenkins stages, right? So that's no called as declarative scripting. So I'll help you also write those stages in Jenkins, right? It's no point that you doing it from the UI. That does solve it on a very basic level, but when you start working in a project, or if you sit for your interviews, you will get tested on whether you can write those pipelines by yourself, right? So I'll be helping you on those steps, right? And it's very easy once you can pick that up. The basic methodologies that we follow to write those, uh, it's very easy for you to understand. Yeah. And it's not dependent on any particular language, but Jenkins declarative scripting is mostly done on a bit of Groovy, and shell script is again will be utilized in most of your use cases, whatever and wherever you work in DevOps. So that is the predominant tools that I think you should learn. Yeah.
So for this also means a basic knowledge we need required for the coding.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have to be a hardcore developer, right? Only on high level knowledge is fine, right? Basic to intermediate
Got
knowledge is more than enough for you to ace your work.
got
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions? Anyone, guys?
So what is the duration of the course?
It's nearly 50 to 52 hours. We can say 50 hours would be the duration of the entire course, because I don't want to rush, right? Because there's a lot of topics that we will be covering. So yeah, nearly 50 hours. Maurice, do you have any question? I see you unmute.
Hey, yeah, I have a couple of questions. First,
Yeah, yeah.
what is the
Go ahead.
mode of what kind of training it will be? I mean, like, it is going to be like a theoretical training, or it is going to be like it will be like any hands-on will be there? Because I could see from the PPT only, like I could see couple of hands-on lab. So for the remaining services, we are not going to cover any hands-on.
Yeah, I had only put in this slide, but if you see, okay. So first, let me answer your question. So it will be mostly 40, 60, 40 in the ratio of theory, because whatever hands-on or anything that you learn, you need to first understand those concepts and then implement by your own hands, right? So it is 60% practicals. Now, I have differentiated those into, again, two stages. Let me go through it, right? So if this is the course syllabus that you can also get, right? So let's take this GCP, right? So GCP, I have, if you see, pipeline 1, pipeline 2, and project 1 and project 2, right? So whenever the concepts are being defined, uh, the hands-on will be there on that particular topic. And once we finish that entire course, right, on that particular topic, I'll help you with this hands-on with this pipelines, right? And your task would be this too, performing it as your homework, right? Because when I am doing it on my screen, I am showing you the entire process, but until and unless you do it on from your side, you won't get the entire understanding, right? And what are the pitfalls or what are the problems you are facing from your side. You need to come up with your doubts once you're trying to solve those problems, right? And it's not only for GCP, right? If I go down again for Git, I have that segregated. Again, for Docker, I have that segregated for Kubernetes, for Terraform, for Jenkins, and then you have the final project that you need to perform from your side, right? So yeah, so this is how mostly I had defined it, and it's because to not make this more complex, I did not individually write. Let's say if I'm talking about, let's say, Terraform variables, so I did not individually write that I'll also do a hands-on on these variables, right? I need to show you the syntax of how to write that, right? Otherwise, how will you understand? If I tell you Terraform variables, it looks very vague, right? If I just tell you Terraform has 4 kinds of variables, it's not like that. On each level, whatever surveys or whatever uh, tools that we are learning, it will be very hands-on practical sessions, right?
Okay, probably let me ask a specific question, right? So when you talk about database services, right? Google
Mm,
database services, there are multiple database services right there, right? Like big
mm,
data or like BigQuery, right? So
mm.
let's say like we are talking about big table, right? So what kind of methodology you will be doing it, like because like big table is a big subject, right? And I'm not sure
Correct.
like so you're not going to cover BigQuery here.
So okay, if I talk about databases, it will not be specific to the data engineering or data analytics side, but it will be mostly on span of DevOps, right? It will be on a very high level, how you can use it, or I would say how you can not use it also, how you can spin those up, right? And what is the trade-off between these databases that we have, like when we do you use an oltp or when we use an olap. So on these sides we will be covering, right? Because if I go deep into bigtable or bigquery, that would be more of data engineering side, right? So this is mostly specific on the DevOps part. So yeah.
So you will talk about only what is the purpose of each and every database service and overview about it. For
Yes,
take
for
example of cloud Bigtable, right? It is going to be NoSQL database, right? And we know like what
yeah.
is the purpose of NoSQL database, right? So what are the topics you will cover in cloud Bigtable, if you can explain?
Okay, what are the topics is it would be very on a generic high level, like how do you, why big table? Because you might be knowing, but might be candidates who might it would be very first time what is NoSQL and about what is the concept of big table and why it is getting used. That's the first. Second is how do you provision it from your GCP? That would be the second, and mostly the purpose of using big table.
Okay, so that means like there won't be any like kind of like hands-on or practical on any of the database service, right? If you understand correctly.
Not on very much deep, right? Maybe, yeah, not on very much deep on data engineering side. No.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
How are the job calls on this GCP DevOps?
Sorry.
How is the job market as per the
Uh, your voice is coming very low for me. Can you speak a bit louder?
how is the job market for this GCP DevOps when compared to AWS?
Okay. How is the job market? Okay. So I would say GCP job market is now very hot and very high because AWS has already gone saturated, and there are a lot of professionals who might know a bit of AWS and trying to fit in into those saturated job open positions. But now GCP has tried to push their cloud in the organizations, and a lot of projects are picking up GCP because of its very price uh, quotient that they have the lowest price for each of their services, so most of the projects are trying to pick that GCP cloud. And the engineers or the professionals having the knowledge of GCP is very 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 less, right? So it is the upper hand for the people who learn quickly GCP to get a job out there is very high right now. Because if I tell you on AWS has already been saturated and there is no much growth out there, right, in terms of job openings. But if you know GCP, uh, I would say in the next 3 to 4 months, you can crack a job out there. Or if you are trying to switch from one domain to another, GCP would be the first go to cloud for you because of that ratio between uh, the trained professionals and the job openings is very high out there. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, Akash.
Okay, thank you. Any other question, guys?
So are you going to cover monitoring tools also like Grafana?
Yeah, Prometheus and Grafana, yes. When we deploy our Kubernetes components, we will also look into the Prometheus and Grafana. How do you monitor those? Yes.